We just like to give our kids practice in public speaking skills and getting ready for presentations. So that's why we do this. Thanks for showing up to cheer for them. And with no further talk from me, we will introduce our first scholar, Timothy Rex Meredith.
Hi, my name is T-Rex, and today I'd like to tell you some poems, memory verses, and facts that I've learned over this school semester. The Goldenrod by Frank Dempster Sherman. Spring is the morning of the year, and summer is the noontide bright. The autumn is the evening clear that comes before the winter's night. And in the evening, everywhere, along the roadside, up and down, I see the golden torches flare like lighted street lamps in the town. I think the butterfly and bee from distant meadows coming back are quite contented when they see these lamps along the homeward track. But those who stay too late get lost, for when the darkness falls about, down every lighted street the frost will go and put the torches out. Psalms 2, verses 1 through 9. Why do the nations rebel and the peoples plot in vain? The kings of the earth take their stand, and the rulers conspire together against the Lord and his anointed one. Let us tear off their chains and free ourselves from their restraints. The one enthroned in heaven laughs. The Lord ridicules him. Then he speaks to them in his anger and terrifies them in his wrath. I have consecrated my king on Zion. I will declare the Lord's decree. He said to me, "You are my son. Today I have become your father. Ask of me, and I will make the nations your inheritance and the ends of the earth your possession. You shall break them with a rod of iron. You will shatter them like pottery." This is the water cycle and how water travels from a liquid to a gas and then to a solid.
Okay, can you just back up and say that whole sentence again? Sorry, there was an interference.
This is the water cycle and how water travels from a liquid to a gas and to a solid. First, evaporation happens because the water gets hot enough and it turns into water vapor. Condensation is the cooling of the water inside the clouds. Then precipitation happens because the water molecules get too cold and fall down from the sky as rain, snow, or hail. Runoff water is the water that comes back down from the mountainside and back into the ocean. If you were to take a glass of water and place it next to you, could you guess how old it was? The water in your glass could have fallen from the sky a few weeks ago, but it has existed on Earth since its formation over 4.5 billion years ago. Scientists believe that the water that is here on Earth today was the same water that was back when the dinosaurs existed. And scientists believe that nearly every molecule of water has already been drunken by a dinosaur.
Wow.
Now, I'd like to tell you a few facts about bears. I learned that the strangest and slowest bear is the sloth bear. I also learned that the biggest bear is the polar bear. It can weigh over 1,000 pounds. This is a diagram of a black bear. As you can see, the black bear is leaning down to take a drink from the river. Black bears like to live near rivers because they're great swimmers and their main food is fish. You might not be able to tell from this picture, but black bears' hind legs are longer than their front legs.
Great job.
Are there any questions, maybe?
Why are the clouds gray when it's gonna rain? They're gray instead of white?
Because the water molecules get too cold and get too heavy, and so, yeah.
I have a question, T-Rex.
What?
Why does the water get hot?
Because the sun heats it.
Good.
And what's that hump on top of the black bear?
This is the shoulder.
The what? The
what's
shovel?
The shoulder.
What's the other hump? Is there another hump?
No,
Or
there's.
just
This
his
is the back.
Okay. The hump is just his
He's just kind of
shoulder.
got his shoulder up a little bit.
Yeah.
T-Rex, do we have black bears in this area?
Yes, black bears live all around North America.
Have you seen a black bear?
No, I have not.
I have.
I thought you had a bear come get in your garbage or something.
That was when
Yeah, but I
We
didn't
did,
see
but
that.
Oh, you know it's before he was born.
Good job.
Hi, I'm Rob, and I would like to share with you a poem about Abraham Lincoln's death. O Captain, my Captain, by Walt Whitman. O Captain, my Captain, our fearful trip is done. The ship has weathered every rack. The prize we sought is won. The port is near. The bells I hear. The people all exulting. While follow wise the steady keel, the vessel grim and daring. But oh heart, 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 oh the bleeding drops of red! For on the deck my captain lies, fallen, cold and dead. O Captain, my Captain, rise up and hear the bells. Rise up, for you the flag is flung, for you the bugle trails, for you bouquets and ribbon wreaths, for you the shores are crowding, for you they call the swaying mast, their eager faces turning. Dear Captain, dear father, this arm beneath your head, it is some dream that on the deck you've fallen cold and dead. My Captain does not answer. His lips are pale and still. My father does not feel my arm. He has no pulse nor will. The ship is anchored safe and sound, its voyage closed and done. From fearful trip, the victor's ship comes in with object won. Exult, O shores, and ring, O bells! But I, with mournful tread, walk the deck. My captain lies, fallen, cold, and dead. Now I'll say for you John 1, verses 1 through 18. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. All things were created through him, and apart from him not one thing was created that has been created. Life was in him, and that life was the light of men. That light shines in the darkness, yet the darkness did not overcome it. There was a man named John who was sent from God. He came as a witness to testify about the light, so that all might believe through him. He was not the light, but he came to testify about the light, so that all might believe through him.
Sorry, this cue card is late. You're doing great. He came to testify about the light so that all might believe through him. He was not the light, but he came to testify about the light. Keep going.
The true light who gives light to everyone was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world was created through him. Yet the world did not recognize him. He came to his own, but his own people did not receive him. But to all who did receive him, he gave them the right to be children of God, to those who believed in his name, who were born not of blood, or of the will of the flesh, or of the will of man, but of God. The Word became flesh and took up residence among us. We observed his glory, the glory as the one and only Son, from the Father, full of grace and truth. John testified concerning him and exclaimed, "This is the one of whom I said, the one coming after me has surpassed me because he existed before me." Indeed, we have all received grace after grace from his fullness. For although the law was given through Moses, grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. No one has ever seen God, the one and only Son. The one who is at the Father's side, he has revealed him. Now I would like to tell you about Venus flytraps. This is a Venus flytrap. One way a Venus flytrap can grow is when a tiny seed, even smaller than your pinky fingernail, can fall from a fertilized Venus flytrap pistil and land and grow a plant. Another way is when a fully grown flytrap can grow, instead of downward roots, sideways roots for a few feet and then sprout up to create another one. This is called a rhizome. The reason why Venus flytraps catch flies is because the boggy soil, which is the environment that they live in North and South Carolina, has absolutely no nitrogen. Nitrogen is one of the key ingredients that plants need to survive. The way they make up for this is getting nitrogen from bugs as to eating them. The way they get bugs is by setting a trap. Here's a diagram. The inside of a Venus flytrap would be red, as not shown in the picture. It has sticky, yummy liquid on it that attracts bugs. When big or small bugs wander around it, they may bump into one of the trigger hairs. If one is bumped twice or two are bumped once, then it will close, but not all the way. It doesn't close all the way because if it is a tiny bug that can get out of the spikes, then it can get away. Because if it eats a tiny bug, then it will lose more energy trying to eat it than it will gain from the nutrients inside of it. If the bug is big and can't get out, it will struggle and bump more trigger hairs. That tells the plant that it is alive and big enough for the catch. Then it will close more and more till it is airtight. Then it will pump a juice, digestive juices, to eat the plant. After a while, or a few weeks, the trap will open up again and let the wind or something brush it out. Brush the shell out. The Venus flytrap in the middle has a flower. The flower is about a foot taller than the rest of it, and so that bugs who want to go to the flower don't accidentally go to the trap and get eaten. They need bugs to come to the flower and stay alive so they can get pollinated. When a pistil, which is in the middle of the flower, gets pollinated, the bulge at the bottom becomes fertilized and therefore grows seeds. After a while, the petals will fall off and the bulge will turn black. Then it will open and the seeds will fall out. Now I would like to tell you about when the states joined and other events in American history. First, the American Revolution happened from 1787 to 1781. This is when the English settlers who had founded land didn't want to give it back to England, and a war was started. This war didn't last very long, and we won. The states that joined soon after, from 1787 to 1790, are marked in red. Then next to join were Vermont, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Ohio, marked in orange. Then the states in green joined. They are marked in green. Then the Missouri Compromise happened. The Missouri Compromise was in 1820. It was when people were having trouble that there were more slave states than there were non-slave states. A bill was passed that made it so that whenever a slave state joined, a non-slave state would have to join soon after. This affected Maine and Missouri and the other states marked in blue. Another thing that happened was the Erie Canal was opened in 1825. It let the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, go to Lake Erie. Then the California Gold Rush happened. California is a very interesting state because what made it a state was when a settler found gold, and once the news spread, settlers all over from the east rushed to the west to find their fortune. Now California is the most populated state because of that event. Then the Civil War happened from 1861 to 1865. The states that joined during that time are marked in purple. Then the states marked from pink, black, and gray joined from 1867 to 1912. Then there are other things listed on your handout. In 1941, the Pearl Harbor was bombed, and therefore America joined World War II. Shortly after, in 1945, World War II was ended. Once the 48 states had been joined, America thought that since they had conquered most of the mainland, then they wouldn't need much more land. They were proven wrong when Alaska and Hawaii joined in 1959.
Wait, I have some questions. So tell us what's different about West Virginia in terms of the three purple states that joined during the Civil War.
West Virginia, Virginia was not always this part. Used to be all of West Virginia too. West Virginia didn't necessarily join, it kind of broke off. This happened because West Virginia didn't want to be a slave, didn't want to have Virginia be a slave state, but North Virginia did. And so they broke off.
Any
What,
other
Tom?
question?
Does the Venus flytrap actually eat flies?
Depends on what you mean by eat. It kind of does.
I mean, like, say how we eat flies.
No,
No smart aleck
it
questions.
doesn't.
Rob, what can you tell us about Alaska and how the United States acquired Alaska?
Alaska was a territory before it was a state, and so was Hawaii. That was why Hawaii was bombed as a threat to America, but it wasn't a state. It was just a territory.
You know how we acquired Alaska? Who we bought it from? That's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
You can see it from there, somebody said.
You could say, well, do you know? I'd love to learn.
I'd love to
Yeah,
learn.
the guy named Seward bought it from the Russians, and I don't remember by what amount. Wasn't much money, and it was called Seward's Folly because they thought he threw money away buying that territory, but he bought it from the Russians. It's
And
an
some,
interesting
some
story.
call it Stewart's Icebox.
But it's one of the wealthiest in resources. I think it's one of the biggest states.
Actually, Hawaii is the biggest state.
Hawaii?
No, Alaska. Alaska, not Hawaii.
Yeah.
Not Hawaii.
In
People can
geography.
Yes.
Okay, no
You
more
might
questions.
say a question.
I have a
What's your
question.
question, Tiara?
How long does it take for the fly to dissolve in the Venus flytrap?
A few weeks.
A couple of weeks. Have you ever seen a Venus flytrap?
No, they live in North and South Carolina. Never been there.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, okay.
You've been there, just
I have.
Yeah,
Just
no,
not
you
to
were
the
born
area
there.
of
the
Venus
Venus
flytraps.
flytraps.
Venus flytraps are very rare, and it is very special to find one in the wild because they're threatened by environmental destruction.
You put your finger in a Venus flytrap, does it hurt?
No.
Right.
What, Tom?